It was a rainy Saturday afternoon in Boston. The old city library smelled faintly of paper, ink, and the kind of silence only found in places full of stories. Anna, a 27-year-old history student, was tucked into the far corner of the second floor, searching for books for her thesis. As she pulled an old, dust-covered book from the shelf, something fluttered out and landed on the floor. It was a folded envelope, yellowed with age, edges worn. On the front, in elegant cursive handwriting, it read, "To the one who finds this, please deliver it to its rightful owner." Anna's heart skipped a beat. This was no ordinary delivery. Not only did the note mention a rightful owner, which meant whoever found the book before her had obviously already read it, but the handwriting was so beautiful, so precise, so painfully neat, that it made her want to keep the book for herself. What if the person who wrote this note saw how beautiful it was? Would they still want it back? The old woman sat in her rocking chair, slowly unfolding a letter she had received in the mail. The ink was slightly faded, but still legible. It began, "If you are reading this, it means I was too late to say goodbye in person. My name is James Carter, and I've spent the last 40 years regretting something I never said to you." The letter told the story of a man who, in 1978, had fallen in love with a woman named Elizabeth, but life, fear, and mischances had kept them apart. He had written the letter in the hope that someone, someday, might deliver it to her, or at least know their story. Anna's heart pounded. The letter was dated May 4th, 1998, so it had been 25 years since James had written it. But how did this letter get to her now? And who was James Carter? That night, Anna called her grandfather, a retired Boston journalist. When she read the line to him, he paused. "Elm tree meets the sea. That sounds like Seaview Park in Marblehead. Used to be famous for its huge old elm by the water. Your grandmother and I had picnics there." The next morning, despite the rain, Anna drove to Marblehead. The park was still there. The elm tree too, though older, gnarled, and missing some branches. At its base, half buried in damp leaves, was a small brass plaque. It read, "In loving memory of Elizabeth Harper Carter, 1952 to 2005. Her breath caught. Elizabeth Carter." Her grandmother's name was Elizabeth Carter. And the date, 2005, the year before Anna was born. Anna couldn't stop thinking about it. Who was James Carter? Was Elizabeth still alive? Did she ever know how he felt? She typed the names into a laptop, but the internet gave her nothing certain. Old phone directories, obituaries, archive scans, nothing. It felt impossible. Then she noticed a tiny postscript at the bottom of the letter. "If you ever wish to find me, look where the elm tree meets the sea." Anna didn't hesitate. She packed a bag, got in her car, and drove towards the coast. The letter had been sent from a small coastal town about an hour away. As she approached, she could see a large elm tree at the edge of the cliff, and there, carved into the trunk, was the name Elizabeth. Hope surged through Anna. Could this be the answer she'd been looking for all these years? Was Elizabeth still alive? When the tide went out, it revealed something else. A small wooden boat. Anna's heart skipped a beat. This was it. The moment she'd been waiting for. What did it mean? Was it a sign that Elizabeth was still out there somewhere? Or was it just a cruel trick of fate? The old man's face was deeply lined, his eyes the pale blue of winter sky. Slowly, Anna approached him. "Excuse me, sir, do you happen to know anything about the elm tree?" She could see the confusion in his eyes as he tried to place her. "I planted it," he said simply. "My wife loved this spot." Anna's breath caught. "Your wife, was her name Elizabeth?" He nodded. "Liz." Her heart thudded. "And was your name James?" The old man smiled, a sad smile that reached his eyes. "You know, everyone forgets my name, but no one ever forgets Liz's." He paused, then added softly, "Except me." Anna felt tears prickling her eyes. She had found the right tree, but was it too late? Was the secret buried too deep? Or would the memory of Liz, like the roots of this old elm, run deeper than time itself? The drizzle turned into a cold, steady rain. Anna stood frozen in front of the plaque, the water dripping from her coats. Who'd hid the inscription? Elizabeth Harper Carter, the same surname. Did that mean James and Elizabeth had eventually married? If so, why did the letter sound like they'd never been together? At the far end of the park, an elderly man in a dark raincoat sat alone on a bench, staring out at the gray sea. A sudden gust of wind whipped around him, sending fallen leaves skittering across the pavement. He pulled his knees up to his chest and huddled deeper into his coat. Anna turned away from the plaque, her shoulders slumping. Maybe it didn't matter if they'd married. What mattered was that he'd loved her, truly loved her, and that, she knew, was a love story worth telling. James blinked in surprise. Yes, but how do you... Anna pulled the envelope from her bag. Its paper was now slightly damp from the rain. I found this in the city library, she said. For a moment, the old man just stared at it. Then, with trembling fingers, he opened it. His lips moved silently as he read, a tear mixing with the rain on his cheek. It's from your father, Anna said softly. He wrote this to you. He must have sent it right after he found out about the baby. James looked up, his eyes wide. I never knew he cared, he whispered, his voice cracking. Anna shook her head. Oh, James, you know that's not true. He loved you very much. He just didn't know how to show it. He was a soldier. It wasn't in his nature to be vulnerable. But this letter, it's proof that he had a heart of gold. And if he were here, he would do anything to protect you and your baby. James took the letter, his hands shaking. Thank you, Anna, he whispered. James took a long breath. I wrote this the week before Liz and I finally met again. He said she had been married to someone else for 20 years. We'd lost touch for decades. I was ready to confess everything, but I almost didn't. This letter was my backup in case I lost my courage. But I found it. I told her. We had 7 years together before she passed. The best years of my life. He looked at Anna, his voice softer now. I must have lost that letter when I donated some of my books. Guess it was waiting for the right person to find it. Anna stared at the letter in her hands, then slowly looked up at James. So, she began, where did you two meet? James smiled faintly. Ah, that's not important. What matters is that I finally found her. It took me 50 years, but I found her. He reached out, took her hand, and squeezed it gently. And you found me, he added, his voice filled with emotion. We found each other. The cafe was small and cozy, with mismatched furniture and a worn leather couch. It was the kind of place that smelled like old books and fresh coffee. Before she could leave, James said, do you have somewhere to be? There's a little cafe nearby. I could use some company on a rainy afternoon. Anna hesitated. She did have somewhere to be, but something in his voice, a quiet loneliness, made her nod. They walked together, slowly. James leaned on his cane. The cafe wasn't too busy. A few people sat at the tables by the window, reading books or sipping their coffee. I'm not much of a talker, James said, but I like the company, if you don't mind. He smiled at her then, his eyes twinkling. It's been a while since I've had someone to talk to, someone like you. The rain eased into a light mist. James folded the letter carefully and handed it back. No, Anna said, pushing it gently toward him. It's yours. I think it's waited long enough to come home. James stared at her for a moment. You remind me of Liz when she was your age. Same eyes, same way of looking right into someone. Anna smiled politely, not knowing what to say. You don't remember me, do you? James asked, his voice cracking. It's okay, I understand. It's been a long time. But I remember you. I remember how it felt to hold you in my arms. I remember the way you smelled. I remember the way you tasted. Anna's heart skipped a beat. She wanted to look away, but something compelled her to keep staring at him. You're crazy, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the sound of the rain. Maybe, James said, stepping closer. But I'm your crazy, and I've come home to tell you that I love you. The cafe was warm, and the smell of fresh bread filled the air. James told her stories of Liz, how they'd first met at a university debate, how she'd once chased him with an umbrella during a sudden downpour, how they'd danced barefoot in their kitchen. Anna listened, captivated. Then James said quietly, you know, Liz's maiden name was Harper. Her family moved from England in the 60s. Anna froze. Her grandmother's maiden name was Harper. As the cafe bustled around them, Anna's mind raced. Could this be the answer to all of her prayers? A lead from a cold case, a possible connection to the most famous unsolved mystery of the 20th century. But how could this woman, this stranger, have any link to her family's past? And what did it mean for the investigation? With a deep breath, Anna decided to play along. She had nothing to lose, so she smiled politely, thanked James for the tea, and said, "Actually, I think I'm a distant cousin of Liz. Who is this woman? Why does she look so familiar? I can't quite put my finger on it." They started comparing details. Dates, family names, places. And then Anna's eyes widened. "You're saying you were married to my great-aunt?" James laughed softly. "Looks like that letter didn't just find anyone. It found family. The truth is, when you get down to it, we're all related. We just haven't met yet. Or maybe we have and we don't remember. Maybe time is a flat circle. Maybe this is how they found out they're related. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. What's the hardest thing you've ever done?" Well, this is the story of a young woman named Anna, who had a summer romance with a guy named James. They fell in love, but sadly, it wasn't meant to be. And when James left town, they both knew that it was for the best. But before they parted ways, James pressed a letter into Anna's hand. "Keep it," he said. "Someday, you might need a reminder that it's never too late to say the things that matter." Anna promised that she would. And years later, when Anna was going through a rough patch in her life, she opened up that letter and read, "You are the most important person in my life. Don't ever forget that." And she realized that no matter what happens in life, it's always worth it to say the three little words that can change everything. Months later, James passed away peacefully in his sleep. At his memorial, Anna placed the letter beside a framed photo of James and Liz under the elm tree. It was there under the elm tree where James had first told her about his love for her, how he felt like he'd known her forever. And it was there that Anna realized she loved him too. That night, Anna began writing her own letter, not to be hidden away like the one she'd found, but to be given to someone she loved. Because some words, they just shouldn't be left unsaid. This is the power of connection. Our words have the ability to impact others in ways we may never know. And sometimes, the kindest thing we can do for someone is to say the words we're all afraid to say, the ones that could change everything.